Well, hello. An update about what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of weeks slash months, and discuss the things that have been, because we just finished playing an Iiosia role-playing game session named A Strange Awakening, which was run by me and involved Loon, to you, Emmy, Kida, and Malaki. We streamed it last Saturday and yesterday, so it took 2 nights essentially to cover. Got it all done, all finished, all went well. I've uploaded it all. This last video is 4 hours long, which is far too long, and I do apologise for that. I did try splitting it, but I had an error halfway through rendering that, and I just thought, you know what, I honestly can't be bothered. So there it is, a 4-hour video. You know, if you watch it in sections, that's fine. No, there won't be a podcast version. I'm not really sure how to do that. Kind of need to see the board anyway, I guess, you know, mostly, don't you? I mean, although I don't really expect people to sort of sit there watching the damn thing, so maybe there's something I'll look into, doing like a podcast version of these. So, it was brilliant. I really, really enjoyed it, A Strange Awakening. The entire game was revolving around a map that I can actually show you, actually. I'm going to really... I'll show this over here. This map here, which I added to in the game. I added some more labels, but this was done by Neoni, I think it is. And he's really good at, you know, drawing stuff. He's done certain other stuff, like, you know, as we see here as I scroll through them. He likes drawing stuff for people, and thankfully he's drawing stuff for me. So I've had the pleasure of him drawing things for me, and he drew this, a map of Iiosia, and that was basically why the game was what it was, which was set in Iiosia, and involved the characters getting cursed, I suppose, and doing other things, and they had to find out what the hell was going on and stop it. Really, really good. Really enjoyed it. All worked really well. The entire point of that session was because the version before, the last session I had before that, I played with some friends from work. Some completely new people to role-playing games and that whole sort of genre of you know, way of thinking in games and stuff like that. And I didn't get it. They just didn't get it, and it was awful. It really was. It was so mind-numbingly bad. So this was to dispel that and remind me that these games can be good, and it certainly did that. So thank you to the 4 players for playing, and for everybody who was in the chat watching, because some people were there for the entire thing. So I do thank them, and it's all on this channel now for reference. So what next? Well, we have Owen the Barbarian, part 4, the final part to read. So I'll be doing that over the next few days. And that leaves us with a clean slate. I had thought, carrying on, to do NaNoWriMo, because that is in November, which is in about 20 days' time. So that's certainly an option, whether I could look at that. I'll think about it. Over the next couple of weeks, what I want to do is revisit IRPG, because while playing it, the system does work. But there are a couple of things in it that I don't particularly like, that I'm not too happy with. So I'm going to go over some stuff. One thing is the spells. The magic manual. In fact, let's go have a look at that. If we have a look at the magic manual on the website, it's version 1 up here, version 1, so it hasn't been changed in freaking years. And some of these spell descriptions are pretty lackluster and quite basic. We'll just go down to a random section here. You know, this isn't very long, is it? I would like to have a bit more fluff. I would like to add more spells, set the book out a little bit better so you don't get this. Like this as well, you know, it's all very bare bones. When I initially wrote this magic manual, I did it all at once, essentially, over a couple of days. So I was just getting the bare bones of it done, and that's all that's remained. I've had several ideas for new spells since then, and issues with the current spells have been brought up. So I shall go about changing that and adding more to the magic, including stuff like perhaps a mechanic to prevent, or at least make it difficult for, mages to stop having, say, the dark arc, which should now be the black arc. Again, that hasn't changed. So having necromancy and healing, for example, those are pretty opposing forces. So try not to make it too restrictive, but make it more immersive, so that, you know, a necromancer healer, which we actually had in the game, and I had no issues with that at all. But those are two very different sorts of magic, you know, light and, you know, black and light. So I'm going to work on that. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but to bring something in, something relatively simple, but something that's there to make people think twice, and maybe, you know, guide their mages down one path or the other, rather than saying, I'll have demonics, I'll have blessing, and I will have introverted mind. Especially, you know, between these and these, there should be some sort of conflict in there. So there's that. There's also the healing in the game, which, while amusing in certain points of the game, I didn't feel worked the way that I wanted it to. One thing I don't particularly like is bandages. There are a couple of ways you can heal in the game. There's bandages, there's potions, there's magic, and there's resting. Bandages are your pretty much go-to thing for your average run-of-the-mill guy who doesn't have access to magical means like potions and magic and doesn't really have time to rest. So they're going to bandage themselves up, which I get. But it doesn't make sense for a character to be wandering around with 16 bandages on him. So what I'm thinking about doing is to create, as an optional rule, tiers of injury. So if you're over half health, you can apply a bandage to that wound. But if it goes under half health, bandages just won't cut it. So you will need to have some other means of healing yourself, or at least to get through the injury before you can heal further. And then when you get down to maybe a quarter health, or vitality as it is, some other effect needs to be applied, and your stats may also start being affected, because someone on, say, 3 vitality out of 30 will not be as physically able to move around and perform actions as they would be on full health. It just doesn't make sense that they're almost dead and yet still physically capable of everything. So, and these things will be integrated as optional rules. They'll also make the game harder, obviously, but hopefully more immersive. Another thing I didn't like about the magic, the healing, was the way you apply bandages and how you got to test for skill. I think they should be able to apply bandages automatically, and then the skill roll should be incorporated in how much you heal. But that may well change anyway with the new rules that I'm thinking about. And I might also incorporate stuff like stitches and stuff like that, which may be the sort of second tier that you need to go if bandages don't, you know, can't cut it anymore, like you go under half health. So that's something I'm thinking about. Also the way skills work, if we back up, back. Oh, okay, new window. We got some. If we go into the special abilities, I suppose, which is what most of this is, there aren't too many of them, and they were a way to spruce up the combat and sort of refine your character so they can be, you know, alright, so you're a short bow user, but you can fire twice, so you're more of like a rapid shot guy, or you know, you can fire point blank shots, so you can further characterize your character. You can further, you know, make them more unique with the abilities you got. I do want to keep this, but I want to add to it. I'm not too happy with the rank 4, rank 7, rank 10 thing, because you can only take 3, and you have to be a rank 10 to get 3. I think it takes too long. So, I'm debating about this, and I will let you know about how things change and all that. But currently you get a +1 to hit, I suppose, every rank you put into it. Maybe I'll keep that. If I don't keep it, it changes how things work, because the ranking system is basically your bonus. So if you have a rank 3 in a skill, you get to add 3 to the roll. Now I think that works really well. It's when you come to add other things on top of that. So I might just rather than change the bonus thing, just add more special abilities, but maybe at rank 2, at rank 4, at rank 6. I'll think about it. It will require more thought on my part about adding more special abilities, but there need to be more. Again, currently it's very bare bones. They were all done at the same time when I wrote these rules out, so there can be more flexibility. When it comes to things, I mean, the weapon skills are relatively easy to think of. When it comes to things like sleight of hand and when you get to things like persuasion, it's quite difficult for me to think about special abilities. But I'm working on it. I'm not completely at a loss of what to do. There are things in my head that I don't really want to go into too much detail because I might drop them. But you know, I can add special abilities for persuasion and you know, awareness, because all I could think of really now is like an add 1, which is what you're doing anyway when you're adding ranks, and rerolls, which you can do with fate points and certain spells and stuff anyway, and then certain things that happen automatically. But I'm thinking about going into a little bit more detail about that, making it a little more not complex, involved, immersive. And because of all this, the character sheet will likely have to be redesigned. And what I'm thinking about with the character sheet, I think it's all the way up here actually, is have all the skills listed here in this area that isn't highlighting. In here, just have all the skills. And then if you don't have a rank next to them, then obviously you're unranked. Then it's rank 0, 1, 2, and 3, which is basically your bonus. So if you don't have a number in there at all, then you're at -2 because you're completely unranked. You have no skill in it whatsoever. Whereas rank 0, which is the first rank, means that you can use the skill but without any bonuses or penalties. So you have some basic knowledge of how to use it. So I'm thinking about having all the skills listed here. So when it comes to something like, for example, an awareness test, without knowing that an awareness test was intellect-based, you wouldn't know what you were rolling. So you would look down here, you find awareness here, you find it was an intellect skill. No matter what your rank is, awareness is there, and you would know what rank you are at it. Minor things like that. I'm not too happy, honestly, with the character sheet. I think there's too much space at the bottom here. I think I can utilize it a bit better, so I will be redesigning the character sheet to make it a bit better, I suppose. So these are things I'm going to be doing over the next 2 weeks or so, and depending on how they go, I might then start to do a NaNoWriMo thing in November. It depends whether I want to write, and that's a dangerous sort of sentence to make, because it might end up that I never want to write and will never write ever again. So sometimes you have to force yourself, which is exactly what NaNoWriMo is about. But if I find that in 20 days or whatever I'm really digging working on IRPG, then I'll continue to do so. But if I find that I haven't really done much with this maybe, or I'm quite happy with it as it is, or I want to go into something else, then NaNoWriMo may well be a thing that I'll be doing this year. Which is a 50,000 word challenge in a month, by the way, if you don't know. But I've talked about it quite a lot and done a separate video on it on this channel, which I think I will link in the description if you're curious. But what I'll actually work on in that, I'm not entirely sure whether I should rewrite this horrible thing here. This first draft. It's not really what NaNoWriMo is about. But then I could just use the month of November to rewrite Darkness Dawns. A couple of people have given me input on this. It was honestly, the input I've had on it is nothing that I didn't already know, most of it anyway. I know there are glaring errors in it, certain things don't make a lot of sense. There are inconsistencies with me rewriting it so much because I didn't do a proofread well enough or at all. The city of Xanth is spelt differently. Character changes his name in one part of the book. Certain things, it has issues. Does Darkness Dawns, and needs to be addressed at some point. And maybe I've left it long enough that I can now go back to it and, you know, with a fresh head. So that's another thing that I could look at. Onwards from that, I'm not really sure. I mean, I need to add the drawings that Neoni has done. Or I say Neoni now. I'm not sure whether that's right. I'll just say Neo just in case. I need to add those pictures to the site, but that's not a huge job. And some errors that somebody has noticed, so I will change them as well. Thank you to that person for emailing me about that. Other than that, I'm not saying I'm stopping, but my list of to-do things that I really need to get done is proving less and less, which I suppose is a good thing. So yeah, I'm all right with things, really. How you guys doing? Thanks for listening to me waffle on like this, but it does let me sort of like put a mental list sort of out there. And now that I've said that I'm going to do it, it's a weird thing because I know that my views on this channel, you know, are very small. You know, 54 views on this. The last Owen video got 46. So I think 2 comments. But as long as somebody out there has watched this, I feel obliged to do it because I think that person or those 2 or 3 people are expecting it. And even if you're not, I've got it into my head. And maybe it's kind of delusionary, but I think it's a good thing that I feel an obligation to at least make some attempt of doing it. And that has certainly helped in the last couple of months with me finishing Darkness Dawns and then doing this IRPG thing. Just as I said I would many months ago, I've done it. Everything's been ticked off the list, which is a very, very nice feeling. Honestly, it's a really nice feeling to be able to say I've done everything that I said I was going to do. So yeah, next couple of weeks I'll work on IRPG and change some things and think about some more detailed mechanics, most of which will be optional and put in the Dungeon Master's tome. The core rules won't really change that much at all. I think they're fine. It's just the layers on top of it that I'm not particularly too keen on. When you get into more sort of detailed, complex, involved role-playing and such, and you know, like that like Strange Awakening was. That was quite an involved game, really, and only really involved had 10 hours of gameplay in it, and only involved maybe 3 or 4 fights in total. One of which was extremely short and wasn't really planned to be, but there we go. Things happen. Combat is deadly, and it certainly proved to be in that instance. So, plans! Hooray! Alright then, so I shall see you guys when I next see you. Cheers for watching. Again, you know, really appreciate you guys being around and, you know, in the chat here and whatnot, and your continued interest. Look for Owen the Barbarian Part 4 very soon for the thrilling conclusion of that saga and some closing thoughts on it as well, which I hope will be quite illuminating and thoughtful. So, until next time, thank you very much for watching, and toodaloo.